just got up to it.
Yeah, like 2
So,
minutes.
yeah.
We're waiting a couple minutes.
It's,
The recording's on.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just creating the stroke.
it was like right before the ramp, so I'm
You
like,
guys,
I'm gonna get off.
Yeah, that's kind of a pretty formative stuff.
Yeah, because you can't get off anywhere.
Right.
Stuck right where I
And
am.
then the center meeting, so they can't even.
Which intersection is it by? Was it by kind of, actually as you're coming around?
Do you know where the Aurora is over there? It was like
Oh,
right there.
so like
Let's do it.
164.
164.
Yeah. It was before coming out. If it was at F, that'd be fine.
That's why I like working 7 to 3:30, so that way I get expected.
Missed
So
it.
see that this,
Most of the traffic, it's always the, you can't figure out how to go from 3 lanes down to 2 lanes once it gets down to farther west.
well, yeah, you probably will. What is the deal there? It's certainly,
And always people.
everybody stepped in and said everybody has to pay.
50-50 or 60.
They're pretty far down the road.
So they roll that out. That's not paying.
We're ready to go. We'll call the special joint meeting with the Village of Palmyra representatives to order. We're at the Palmyra Town Hall located at W 1125 Highway 106 Palmyra. Call to order, we did that. Certification of compliance with open meetings law.
Yes, the agendas were timely posted.
And roll call, please.
Mayeski,
Here.
Martins,
Here.
Sauter.
Here, we will stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Number 1, discussion with the Village of Palmyra representatives regarding Village Town Fire EMS contract renewal. This discussion is not limited to just the terms of the contract, but may encompass any and all aspects of fire and EMS services in the town of Palmyra and or the Village of Palmyra. Joint meeting with the village representative adjourns and Palmyra Town moves out of the business of Town. Okay, I'd like to start by welcoming everybody here, village reps tonight. But I would like to make one comment. This is a time crunching thing for both the village and the town. And I'm just asking as we move forward that if we have a joint meeting that's the village board and the town board together, all the village board members, because this is a time sensitive thing that we need to get it done for our budget as well as your budget. I think that makes sense. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rob.
Well, when we met last Thursday, we walked through the latest contract draft that you had given us. And I believe now you have sent us the red line version of it. Josh, want to explain what you've done with that?
So I went through what I think was potentially mutually agreeable, and things that we requested, and I'm going to say re-redline or continue to redline. For a document, we obviously met half an hour ago, and walked through them as a group. By the way of the end of the meeting, I'm assuming where we're going to be is essentially volleying this back to the board, as to the village board, excuse me, as a document for you guys to be able to review. There were some things that, as we parted ways last Thursday, that we were going to craft language for, which we did tonight, for your review and I guess future consideration. So I think it might be a little bit of the same type of thing that we did last week, but if you have the draft that we were working with last week. Hopefully, we can reference it. I was trying to print it out, but Captain struggled us 5 minutes ago here, not being able to, so.
I would suggest that as we go through this, that any clauses or any language that we have prior agreed to, or agreed to last week, or agreed to tonight, that we somehow highlight those in green or change the font color somehow, so that going forward, we know which ones have already been agreed to, and we can clearly see which items are still open, so we can keep this moving forward, we don't go back and repeat ourselves, etc. I just usually just highlight.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the start of the contract, I'm sorry, do you guys have anything to say, Lee? We've kind of opened it up, but do you have any upfront, anything you want to?
Can we just focus on what we were going to reword last week? So we don't have to rehash stuff that we did last week?
Well, I think it's important to go through so what I just said about identifying the parts of this that we have agreed to. I think it's important to get that in the red line, whether we highlight that in green or some other way to identify what's completed already so we don't keep going back to it. I think that's important as a logical step in this whole process. That way every meeting, the list and list hopefully gets shorter on what we have to talk about. I think the full first start, the agreement, whereas, now therefore, I don't think there's any issues there, did you have, Josh? Definitions, I think the only thing there was we had agreed, and please confirm, to add the word contracted between paramedic and services.
Yes, that was added.
Services provided, I don't think anything was suggested or changed there, so I think we're good there, so that whole thing can be agreed. Fees, do we want to get through everything, come back to this one, or do we want to go through it now?
Did you guys meet to review population requests?
We sent you a formal request, with you with the village board on that.
We did on Monday.
What was the outcome?
Well, we tentatively agreed that we'll add population, but mutual aid will be included.
That's a later clause, so.
That's part of the figuring out a percentage for fees, so.
Okay, so for the purposes of adding populations, the part that's in yellow is what we generally amended tonight. All volume goes from 50% down to 33.33. Equalized value then becomes 33.33 and population becomes 33.33. As the individual multipliers, not how call volume, not how equalized value, not how population would be calculated, but of the whole. It's at call volume 50% and equalized value 50%. So for adding population, there's going to be three metrics and they each. They don't have to be 33% each. It could be 40, 40, and 20, whatever. My point is that the 50% has to be revised to include three pieces of how that's multiplied, which is essentially what Heidi's spreadsheet had indicated a month ago. Let's just say.
On the topic of the formula, the 33.3%, as he discussed, wasn't per se in our formula, but the call volume, equalized value, and population was one of the three formulas offered. Is that what I'm understanding? It wasn't necessarily the 33%, but that we would use one of the options was call volume, equalized value, or population. Is that the statement? That to weigh the things
Yeah,
out.
but all three were,
Generally speaking, and in the worksheet that we got from Penny.
Yeah.
Just looking at the way that the calculation was broken out for using call volume, equalized value, and population,
Yep.
they were all weighted as
Yep.
1/3 of the overall calculation.
Yep. So we're saying the same thing.
But that's not green yet, because once we get to the formula and the, amendment, exhibit B, exhibit B, we'll come back to this, because you're saying, mutual aid would be a component of your green to put population in.
Yes.
So we won't green that yet until we get to that part, and we'll discuss it. You wanna talk about?
Sure. So to include in the paragraph below that, obviously, you can see that, or do we gotta do the budget meeting thing where?
oh, that's probably better there.
Um,
Yeah, this is better.
So we proposed two things. One is including language into this all population. And the second is a slight reorganization of where one of the sentences was. You'll see this double green line in here. I moved that sentence to be just adjacent to the calculation based on calls October 1st for the preceding year, so that this sentence here is now this green sentence that's highlighted here. Does that sort of kind of make sense-ish?
It's more directly related to the sentence it's now attached to than putting it later in the paragraph. But the wording is exactly the same, correct?
For those two sentences, yes. The next sentence reads, equalized value shall be based upon current year. We inserted as of January 1st. So that there's no question about whether it's at close of open book or anything related to that. It's the Department of Revenue's January 1st equalized value amounts that they put out annually for every community in the state. That it would be based on that January amount, which is the same amount that's used for general tax purposes, property tax purposes, the following year's budget.
You said that's a DOR number?
Yeah. So that we inserted as of January 1st, that was not in there. It just said upon the current year, which was generally a little vague. To be more concise, the DOR's report as of January 1st. And the wording that we included for population says population shall be based on estimates published by the Department of Administration's Demographic Service Center as of January 1st. This is the piece that we talked about at our meeting last week. It's a motion that the town board formally requested the village board to review. It sounds like potentially you have. And that would be, as that report comes out, whether it's June, July, August, September, hopefully not any later than that, their estimates for population, that would be the metric that we use. Questions on that? Okay. The reason why,
Has to be after 1/1.
I'm sorry, what?
October 1. Should be October 1st.
So are you good with that statement then?
For now, yes.
Yes. The reason why Exhibit A is highlighted here is we have a request to have Exhibit A, understanding it's an exhibit, same with Exhibit B, to be included in this Word document, and not that they're floating around as two different documents, or three technically, with two exhibits, but that just gets copied and pasted at the end as an exhibit.
It's part of the document.
So it's part of this Word document, yes. This is kind of part of fees, one of the questions that came up just recently, I'm kind of taking over, so.
That's
um,
perfectly fine.
The existing contract, the current contract has in a whole bunch of different language that gives budgetary projections, in this case, or in the current case, for 23, 4, and 5. And it has descriptions about how it's net of revenue and all these other kinds of things. This contract doesn't stipulate any way, shape, or form where that baseline number is coming from. Whether it's the fire and EMS budget, whether it's the village budget as a whole, whether you guys are picking a number. So to help define the fees overall and how that is being calculated, I think it would be best for both parties, but for the point of clarity, to include what is it based off of. We had a request 2 meetings ago to not have legal fees included. Whatever your budget ends up being, or whatever the proposed law ends up being, to not have legal fees. Again, that was a request that wasn't formalized, that was not agreed to by the town, it was, or the village, it was merely a discussion point, which brings up this point that there is no reference whatsoever as to what this calculation is being multiplied against. What is it the fire and EMS budget? Is the 800 fund something to that effect? It just is assuming that it's the budget.
Fire and EMS budget, which
The 800 fund.
800 fund.
So the 800 fund also includes debt service.
Correct.
The 800 fund, I believe, includes capital. The 800 fund, I believe, also includes legal, which are, these are all the points that I think we need to find the verbiage that works. Either from a request or a demand, or however you want to look at it, so that that's stipulated.
Right.
Whether we use the same language that's in the existing contract and input that in here, because that whole section more or less got deleted because it said 23s cost 24s, 25s, and whatever. That whole section of the agreement was deleted, and there wasn't really anything put back in its place to help specify
What is actually being
what
covered
it is.
again.
Right.
Steve? This last sentence is what you're talking about.
So the fire department budget, ordinance in here, should have set forth the piece on it.
That wasn't this, that's new language, so should be that more. There's nothing discussion, I just. No, I know, that's just like this one, so that's not.
Oh, this is track changes. This is just tracking the difference between the document and this. So this is just tracking what we
I
added.
would just be, this is a.
That's right, this is.
This wasn't.
Operational.
That's why I'm.
Cool.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Well, we wanna. You wanna just check it out?
Yeah, sure. One of the points that we discussed at our meeting here an hour ago was we got a different insurance carrier than we had when the initial contract was signed, so we're gonna, just so you are aware, we're gonna verify that they don't have an issue with us adding you as an insured. Just so you're aware of where we're at.
Not disagreeing with the language, but right now, we just have to check with our insurance company and make sure they're still okay with that. Because our fire insurance company was the one who handled it during our prior or the current contract. So we just have to verify. think so, but I wanna commit to that based on what we don't know from the insurance company yet, but I would think that's accurate.
That's not your wheelhouse, is it, Frank? As far as insurance goes?
I think it'll be on the town, I don't know. It'll be the town, we'll have to make it work.
We just don't want something put in here that, not from your side, from our side, that our insurance company isn't fully on board. So if they're not fully on board with something, and it's something we have to bring back to you, we will. Something we can handle with the insurance company, we will, and then just let you guys know. Term and termination, I believe we are still at the last meeting, we were at sort of an impasse. You are still maintaining a 2-year contract. We suggested a 1-year contract, so then we can sort out long-term type things over the next 18 months. We are still working that out internally.
Well, like I said at the last meeting, legal counsel said at least minimum 2, 3 would be better, and it's mostly like I said, it's more for our fire EMS so they can plan, so they know if there's a commitment between the town and the village, at least for 2 years, saying, so they can plan for training and whatever else you guys want to do. So
Let me give you a scenario. So if you guys put us into a 1-year contract and we do hiring or we maintain and we do not do a deal with the town the following year, that may put us in a potential for a layoff or for other really, really significant operational decisions that we have to make and only have 1 year and not even a year, even less notice to do that. So it just really becomes a planning issue for us, especially related to our most valuable asset, which is our staff, to be able to plan, and if we have to hire, if somebody leaves and we're replaced and we're not certain that we have an agreement with the town for anything longer than a year, it does become a challenge for us. It's a plan especially, and again, as you also know, in our contract, wages happens to be the largest chunk, so it just becomes a planning issue for us.
Sure, certainly understandable. When, along those same lines that you just described, when will you start planning for your personnel based on the new development and the increased population?
And that's a fantastic question, but it's hard for us right now to even make a educated guess on what staffing we would need to provide for that. We know we're going to have to see a change, but that's one of the reasons that we believe 2 years is reasonable. We won't per se see the impact of call volume and residents moving into that area until getting closer to the end of the 2-year agreement. Therefore, that's another reason why we think, we understand your initial point, and I respect it a lot. I think it's very smart of you to say, well, we just don't want that our numbers to reflect the big growth in the village that has potential to be there, but we just believe that we won't see that impact for the length of a 2-year agreement. We'll start planning and ramping up for that near the end of your 2-year agreement, so we'll be coming back to you then at the end of that 2 year and saying, okay, the model home was built, now we've got these other homes, now we're seeing residents, we're seeing on whether this is gonna be a productive development or slower or really rapid, and we can see the signs of that, and then come to you and say, okay, this is our projection for population and call volume and how that's gonna affect us at that. I think if we were a year down the road, it would be a really valid point to say, hey, we don't wanna do anything more than a year because your population could really jump and your call volume in the village, but it's still a little far off. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, understandable. Okay, thanks.
But we respect your thought process on it for sure.
All right, thanks. I believe this is where it stands now, though. I'm gonna say something, you guys tell me if you disagree or not. Our next meeting is September 4th. We'll try to have,
For this.
we'll try to, as a town board, have a definitive answer for you on this one, Brian. Every other Thursday. Not the town board meeting, or negotiation. You okay?
Yeah.
For the next couple of weeks, we'll define that.
We have
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you say the next meeting is September 4th. Just say, village town board meeting,
We,
We have
we have a meeting already.
rescheduled for tonight, calendar.
Oh.
Rescheduled from tonight to that night, just because they wanted to meet with us tonight.
So what do you have on the fourth?
I'm building for EMS.
It was rescheduled from tonight on your request to meet tonight, and then we rescheduled for that day.
On top of, so you're saying we're not having a meeting on the fourth, or this?
Well, they postponed, they're saying they postponed a meeting that we're supposed to have tonight, right?
Right.
To do this with us, when they rescheduled it for the fourth.
Actually, I believe this is the regularly scheduled one. Last week was the one we made up.
We had a meeting scheduled with a contractor for to meet tonight. We asked that contractor if we could push it out, and then they said that they could.
Wasn't
So
my
that we
point.
could meet
So we may have to your point, we may or may not have double booked.
Right, but these meetings have been on Tim's and my schedule for, since I put it out there for the rest of the year, way back in January, February. So they're there. We can't keep, well, before I say what I'm gonna say, you didn't say we're not having this meeting on the fourth. You have another meeting, but is it gonna conflict with this one?
That's
Can
what
we
we're,
just,
that's what we're talking about.
can we just adjust times where you can have your meeting and we can still have this one? Because I don't feel, going back to our opening comments about how important where we are in the year, getting close to the end of the year, we've gotta keep this moving forward. So if we can't cancel any more meetings without rescheduling within a day or two of the date. I'm open to slight adjustments if we can do that, but when will you be able to let us know if you can work out both meetings on the same night?
You need, if it's just the two of you or whomever from the village board, if everybody else can attend simultaneous, would that work? Or should I?
this last meeting with that other vendor was, it took about an hour and a half.
Yep.
But as to what Mr. Sellers said, we should have a joint, from here on out, should be a
Yes.
joint town and village, so we can iron this out, because ideally, I would like to have this done by the end of September. Only because when we start looking at these dates for reports and getting numbers, start getting numbers together for our budgets, you know, we're gonna be, both of us are gonna be,
I agree with you 100%, so we should make that a goal.
so I mean, if you can do it,
It's not gonna happen if we cancel meetings.
Well, no, that's what
I'm saying if we start this other one, I think it's it was gonna be at 6 o'clock again. I mean,
you want us to start, or all of us start at 6, and then you have your other meeting, or what? Or vice versa?
but maybe vice versa.
Well, this one, the next September 4th meeting for this COG committee meeting is scheduled for 5 o'clock. The last couple, we just moved to 6 to accommodate. So what time is your schedule for it?
Our meeting starts at 6 o'clock, so if we start, you know, if we give ourselves an hour and a half, and it's gonna be over at the village hall.
If we could start at 4:30, we could be done by 6 for your meeting. We could have it at the village hall, since we're here tonight.
We'll have to double check with them, I mean, obviously.
I'll take off work.
Hey, there you go, real trooper right there, so.
Okay. But no, we need to,
I work here.
I'll get you another way.
I can see it, set the contract to move this up a little bit too.
Let's make a commitment to have the 2 meetings, we'll work it out. Who's gonna work it out, Tim, with,
I can talk with Lori so she can send stuff out to the board. And if we can get everybody in, I mean, a lot of us work. I mean, like Stephanie, it's like, well, my employer is relatively flexible in regards to this time of the year.
I'll see if I can.
mine is too.
Mine is, what isn't.
Even if it's just an hour meeting from 5 to 6, rather than 4:30 to 7, even an hour gets us progress, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if we both have a goal of ending by September, we should look at going to weekly meetings and figuring out a time of a weekly meeting and try to get it done by. So I think we'd like to get it done by, there's no doubt we'd like to get it done by the end of September too.
Well, I mean, if the wordings that you're proposing, there should be no reason why we have to have multiple meetings
Well,
here on our.
that all depends, because there's still a very big sticking point in that the village has not delivered us budget documents. You've given us a one-line number, but none of the backup explaining that we can look at and dive into, saying, why are we looking at, a 45% increase, in the village's fire and EMS budget year over year? From 23 to 24, it was 10%, from 24 to 25, it was 15%, and what you're proposing for 26 is a 45 or 46% increase. So we do want to see the look at the details and be able to ask questions and question this or that, depending on what it is, and it won't be. But until we have the detail, and the village had committed to having those documents to us, the bottom line of the document you sent to us, the contract language before the last meeting, even on the last page says, that the budget numbers were attached. There was nothing attached. So I went, and Mike, at our last meeting last Thursday at the Village Hall, Mike committed to having it to me the next day, and I didn't get it. And then Paul sent me something Tuesday I believe, but it was just one line. Here's the number, here's your portion. Well, we need the details. Is that something that's available? You can send it to us right away, or?
That would be at the direction of the board. I was directed by the board to share what I shared with you, just because our number and all that stuff needed more explaining, but our number is extremely preliminary. I mean, we don't even have our first meeting until tomorrow.
Well,
But just a private, trying to start talking about, here's the reason for what our request is, then they don't expect to have their budget meetings for another, week or two, or?
yeah,
So
that
it's
sounds.
very, very preliminary, and we don't wanna,
Understand, we can't, and I could get outvoted here, but my opinion is, we can't just arbitrarily agree to $1,045,000 or 46% increase based on $1,046,000, $1,048,000, whatever the number was, budget, without us having the time to go through the detailed budget, even preliminary details, to understand why we would be in line for a 45, 46% increase. That's just due diligence on our part. Not sitting here saying it's not justified, not saying it is justified, but we just don't know, and we owe it to our constituents to do the due diligence, so we can't just on a one-liners agree to something.
I hope that you've shared with your constituents the facts that we've already shared with you that state we went full-time to a full-time fire department, at least for full-time coverage, within the last 18 months, and that's one of the large increases that has occurred. And I know we've been sharing that with you from some of the first meetings, so I want to make sure we're on record saying again that
All of the last 3 or 4 meetings have been videotaped.
And so that kind of answers one of your big points that you just made, is why such a large increase. Well, we've been sharing the reason for that big increase, especially you said 2023, 2024 has been that change in how we were staffing. And as you know, I'm kind of coming in late to the game here and new in this role, but it's very, very obvious when I look at the budgets to be able to show and demonstrate we went from a completely different staffing model to now you have an ambulance staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 that leaves the station with less than 2 minutes every time, all the time, if they're there in station.